Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Stephanie.
I'm Tom.
It's our news digest, and in the news is a British museum that's facing legal action, which means someone's taking them to court over something that they've done or are not willing to do, I guess, in this case. We've got another organization that is angry with the British Museum because they want to 3D scan something inside the museum that they have, part of their Parthenon Marbles collection. So I'm not really sure. I was saying to Tom, I'm not really sure what the big deal is. The British Museum isn't like a big company that's making millions of dollars by letting people into the museum to see the collection. Why are they hogging it? Why wouldn't they let another really good organization 3D scan it so we could keep that forever? I think that would last a lot longer than the actual artifacts they're fighting over.
It's a good question, but I'm sure the British Museum has their reasons for that. But there is this dispute between IDA, which is the Institute for Digital Archaeology, and between the British Museum itself. These are both in England itself, in the UK, and they're fighting over the rights to scan things that come from the Parthenon, marbles from the Parthenon. In other words, these, I guess, technically, they're metopes. They're like these square sort of sculptures or square scenes that depict different scenes from Greek mythology, and they're carved out of marble. So any work of art that is made out of marble would be a marble, a work of art made out of marble. So we're talking about the marbles collection.
Someone might have thought when we said marbles that they were those little round things made of glass usually.
That kids play with.
Kids play with. They play marbles with them. Or sometimes we say you lose your marbles. He's lost his marbles, meaning he's gone crazy. But no, these are actual, I would say, very, very priceless artifacts that were made of marble. Well, let's get started, guys. We're going to read through today's news article, and then we'll be back to talk about it.
A dispute has arisen between the British Museum and a heritage preservation organization. The Institute for Digital Archaeology, IDA, is planning to take the British Museum to court amid allegations that it was refused permission to 3D scan the museum's Parthenon Marbles collection. IDA has said that legal proceedings will begin imminently. IDA, which is based in Oxford, UK, wants to scan the ancient Greek statue collection to reproduce an accurate copy of one of the metopes from the Acropolis Temple. The organization and its advocates believe this will prove important work, as it will safeguard the delicate piece of history from being lost forever. A previous IDA project concluded in the recreation of Syria's Palmyra Arch, which was thought lost until it was rebuilt in 2016. Scanning the Parthenon Marbles collection may also help resolve a long-running dispute between the UK and Greece over which country should have custody of the artifacts. The reproductions would enable the UK to keep replicas while allowing the originals to be sent back to their country of origin. The friction between the British Museum and IDA began after IDA's application requesting the right to conduct 3D scanning was rejected. The British Museum was then angered when it learned that IDA had defied the denial and brought scanning equipment into the museum. IDA says that it followed the British Museum's guidelines, which authorize visitors to use 3D scanning equipment. IDA managed to scan most of the metope, but its members needed a ladder to reach the top. The Parthenon marbles have been in the British Museum's collection since 1816. However, the Greek government claims they were taken illegally during Ottoman rule when Greeks had no power in their own country. Many people believe the collection should be returned, but the British Museum maintains that it offers it the best protection of the artifacts.
Okay, guys, let's take a look at the headline. That's what we call the title of a news story in a newspaper or magazine. What's the headline? The headlines read. You'll often hear that being used. Headlines read, and then someone says what the headline is. So it's not that the headlines are reading anything. That's just the way we say that. So we've got a British museum, as I said, facing legal action over disputed Greek artifacts, scanning rights. Now, an artifact is something that was made by a person, a human being, long, long ago, hundreds and hundreds of years ago, sometimes thousands of years ago. If it's 100 years old or less, it's usually we call those antiques. But if it's an artifact, it's usually something that's been discovered by a group of archaeologists who have dug into the ground and found some things that were buried or covered up, or the remains of something that used to exist. And I think that's what we're talking about here. They're having a dispute. A dispute can be either a noun or a verb. Here it's a noun, and it's kind of like having an argument with somebody. But we use dispute when it's more formal. If two countries are arguing about something or debating about something, you would use dispute rather than, oh, they're having an argument over something. It's a little bit more formal, and we use it more when we're talking about something that's outside of your family or close circle of friends. Maybe you're having a dispute between management and employees somewhere. We would call that a dispute, not an argument.
Yep, indeed. So a dispute is a kind of argument or a conflict or something like that. And again, it's a formal situation here. So this dispute has arisen. It has come up between the British Museum and a heritage preservation organization, which is the Institute for Digital Archaeology, the IDA, and that institute is planning to take the British Museum to court. They're going to sue them amid allegations that it was refused permission to 3D scan the museum's Parthenon Marbles collection. So again, we've got this organization, this Institute for Digital Archaeology, and they asked the British Museum, can we go in there and scan some of those marble collection or some of that marble collection there? And the British Museum said, nope, can't do it. We won't let you do that. And so the museum kind of got, the Institute, the IDA, got kind of angry about that. And so they had these allegations against the British Museum. Allegations are kind of like accusations that someone has done something wrong. It's sort of a claim that someone has done something wrong. There may be allegations of corruption in the government, for example, or allegations of cheating among students taking exams and things like that. So there are allegations, and the allegations state that this institute was refused permission to scan the marbles. Hey, you didn't let us do that, so we're angry about that.
Yeah, I could imagine. I would be angry or mad too. So they want to take them to court. They are taking them to court, actually, because they were refused permission to 3D scan this Parthenon Marbles collection. Now, IDA has said that legal proceedings will begin imminently. So we'll often use these sorts of phrases to talk about law and taking someone to court, suing someone, as Tom said. Someone's done something you're unhappy about, you feel like they've cost you injury or money, and you can take them to court to say, hey, they've done this thing to me, it's wrong. And sometimes you are given money as a compensation. Sometimes you lose your case and you don't win anything, and then you have to pay for your attorney. So that can be expensive. We often talk about legal proceedings, congressional proceedings. It's just the way something is conducted in a more formal environment like a court or Congress or Parliament. We'll talk about the proceedings. If you begin something imminently, it means immediately. very quickly. It's just about to happen. So, again, we use this more in writing than speaking, although you will hear people use it who have very good grammar and good English and are very educated. So, if something is imminent, it's about to happen. So, we're talking about these legal proceedings or this trial. It's going to begin pretty soon.
Right. Imminent is the adjective form, and I think it's more common than the adverb here. Imminent, say the storm is imminent, so you better get inside for protection. But here, again, we're presenting you with the adverb form of imminent. So yes, proceedings, trials, and things like that will start pretty soon. And IDA, again, Institute for Digital Archaeology, which is based in Oxford, UK, wants to scan the ancient Greek statue collection to reproduce an accurate copy of one of the metopes from the Acropolis Temple. Now, if you've ever been to Athens, there's this hill in the middle of town called the Acropolis. That's just that hill there. And on top of the Acropolis is the Parthenon, which is that really big temple with all the columns and stuff like that. There are other structures on the Acropolis there, but the Parthenon is the main one. And, of course, there are all various statues from the Acropolis that they want to scan, and they actually want to reproduce one of the statues. That means to make a copy of something, and I suppose that's possible with 3D scanning technologies these days. You got to scan the object first, and then you can use 3D printing to actually reproduce what you're trying to reproduce.
Now, the organization, we're talking about IDA and its advocates, people who support this particular organization, believe that by scanning or doing a 3D scan, this will prove or show that there's important work that they're trying to accomplish. It will safeguard the delicate piece of history from being lost forever. Yeah, I don't understand the British Museum having a problem with this at all. So if you're safeguarding something, you're keeping it safe, you're protecting it. We often will safeguard valuables in our homes. If you consider something that you own to be very valuable, you might put it in a safety deposit box in the bank if it's small. But yeah, they want to safeguard the delicate piece of history. History, these things that are made out of marble even don't last forever. So they want to keep them for for generations to come. Delicate just means very easily hurt. It's fragile, you could say. Delicate, fragile. So you could describe kids as being quite fragile or delicate, especially if they aren't in good health. But mostly, I would say the elderly are more delicate and fragile as they get older. They can easily injure themselves or break bones, as we know.
Delicate actually means a couple of things. Yes, it does mean something is easily broken, it's fragile, but it also means that something is very fine, it's exquisite, it's got a lot of details and things like that. So the word delicate here could be referring to that aspect of the work of art, or it could be referring to the fact that it could be easily damaged, and maybe they're afraid that scanning this work of art, this sculpture or whatever, would damage it somehow. Well, that brings us about to the midway point in today's lesson. It's time to take a break and listen to our Chinese teacher, but stay tuned. We'll be right back.
大家好，我是派老师。今天讲解的是9月6号 Unit 3，British Museum faces legal action over disputed Greek artifact scanning rights。不晓得我们听众当中有没有人造访过大英博物馆？如果曾经去过，不晓得还记不记得里面所收藏的古希腊建筑雕饰？这篇新闻报道讲述的是大英博物馆与一个组织 The Institute for Digital Archaeology IDA 之间的纠纷。IDA 想要扫描馆藏，才能够复制出一面雅典卫城神庙壁面监视的仿制品，但是馆方并不允许。谁比较有理？像我这样的外行人实在难以判定。好，我们还是赶快来一起看一下这一课的学习重点吧。请同学看到第一段的第一句 A dispute has arisen between the British Museum and a heritage preservation organization. 老师要请同学特别注意的是词语搭配。Dispute 是争议， 那它所搭配的动词就是产生了一个争议，产生了一个争端，那我们就是用 dispute。它的产生动词搭配的呢是原型是 arise。接下来我们再请同学看到第二个句子。第二个句子当中，请同学看到 planning to 后面这个部分，就是从 to 之后 to take the British Museum to court。这个组织呢决定要告大英博物馆。好，所以 take someone to court 意思就是要告谁。好的，那接下来我们请同学看到后面 amid allegations that 之后的这个名词子句，请同学先确认 it was refused permission to 3D scan。 这里的 it 所代替的呢就是这个文物保存的组织。那他们怎么了？他们呢申请能够用 3D 扫描大英博物馆馆藏，可是被拒绝了。所以这边被动语态，他被拒绝了什么？所被拒绝的那一项名词呢就放在 refuse 后面。 It was refused permission to 3D scan。 他被拒绝能够呢获得允许做后面不定词后面的这件事情。再来请同学呢看到第二段的第一个句子，请同学看到在 Greek statue collection 之后有一个不定词片语 to reproduce an accurate copy。 请同学呢看到 reproduce 这个字， reproduce 在这里呢是指复制的意思。好，接下来请同学看到第二个句子， The organization and its advocate believes this will prove important work as it will safeguard the delicate piece of history from being lost forever。 这边的 safeguard 其实呢就相当于保护。那保护呢这个文物免于，后面的介系词这个 from 其实就是免于的意思，保护这些历史的文物，重要的文物呢不至于遗失。
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back, guys. We're talking about the British Museum facing legal action from the IDA, or Institute for Digital Archaeology, because they're refusing to let IDA perform a 3D scan of the museum's Parthenon Marbles collection. So we're talking about why this is actually taking place. So if there are legal proceedings, we talked about how IDA wants to take the British Museum to court to sue them because they said this is just not right, and we want a judge or jury to decide in our favor, or at least say, oh, yeah, you guys are wrong, or you guys are right, and the British Museum is wrong, which would mean that the British Museum must go ahead and allow IDA to perform the 3D scan that they want. We know that IDA is based in Oxford, UK, and the actual Parthenon Marbles collection is from Greece, which we're going to talk about how the British Museum came into possession of this, because it's not a UK piece of art or any UK artifacts. It's actually from ancient Greece.
Indeed. So we're again talking about the Institute for Digital Archaeology, and they had a previous project. It concluded in the recreation of Syria's Palmyra Arch, which was thought lost until it was rebuilt in 2016. So they thought it had disappeared totally, but they managed to recreate it using 3D printing and stuff like that. So that's an example of the work that they have done. Some of these ancient structures are living on, even though the originals are gone. And scanning the Parthenon Marbles collection may also help resolve a long-running dispute between the UK and Greece over which country should have custody of the artifacts. So that's another aspect to this. Of course, as you know, the British Museum has artifacts from various countries that they colonized over the last couple of centuries. And, of course, those artifacts are still in Britain, and some of those countries are saying, hey, you got to give that stuff back. You stole it. It doesn't belong to you. So this is part of the question here. Of course, people in Greece are probably upset that some of their ancient artifacts are sitting in a museum in London there when they should be in Athens.
Yeah, and they have a pretty spectacular new museum in Greece, in Athens, that houses some of these Greek artifacts that they still have possession of. And they feel like they are fully able to protect their own artifacts. So if you say someone has custody of something, it means that a particular party or person has protective care or guardianship of someone or something. We often talk about parents who go through a divorce. Which parent will get custody of the kids? Maybe they have shared custody, which means they both have the kids part of the time. But we also use it to talk about when people are arrested by the police for an alleged crime and taken into custody, which means they're put into prison until they either get bail, which means they pay a bit of money and they can get out until the trial, or they're convicted and then they're in prison for a while. So custody just means you, here in this particular article, they have protective care that's been assigned to them.
Right, so if they have the reproductions, that would enable the UK to keep the replicas, the copies, while allowing the originals to be sent back to their country of origin. That seems to make sense. They can at least have something there. It's not the real thing, but it's a pretty close copy, and if you ask the average person, they'll probably not be able to tell the difference.
True.
Now let's move on to the next paragraph here. It says, the friction between the British Museum and IDA began after IDA's application requesting the right to conduct 3D scanning was rejected. So basically, this is why we have this conflict, this dispute, the friction here. Friction, of course, refers to when things rub against each other and they're not going smoothly. You'll have friction, of course, with your brakes in your car. The brakes, of course, squeeze onto a disc or something like that, and so there's friction there to slow the car down. And here, friction refers to conflict. So they've got this conflict going on, and it started after the IDA made this request, and then the British Museum said, nope, you can't have it. No, we're not going to let you do it. Your request is rejected.
Now, the British Museum was then angered. They were mad. They became angry when it learned that IDA had defied the denial and brought scanning equipment into the museum. If you defy someone, you openly refuse to obey something you've been told to do, or you resist doing it. Here, they just disobeyed. So they'd been told already, no, you can't 3D scan. And they said, screw that, I'm going in with my 3D scanning equipment and we're doing it anyway. A denial is when someone says no to you. So if you deny someone something, you're saying no. Or here is the noun form, the denial. I received a denial from my first college that I applied to. They didn't accept me, so denial. When someone has said no, or sometimes you'll hear a denial when someone says that's not true. So if someone says, oh, that's not true what you're saying, they're denying. That's a denial of the facts or what somebody is alleging.
So the British Museum were upset about that, and then the IDA said, well, we followed your guidelines, and they authorized visitors to use 3D scanning equipment.
There you go.
So the guidelines are like rules, basically these permission guidelines that let people take equipment in there and scan stuff. And they said, yeah, we were just doing what you guys let people do. To authorize just means to allow someone to do something. You give them your permission if you have that power to do so.
Yeah, so they went ahead and, they thought they were following the guidelines that the British Museum had set up because it says they can use 3D scanning equipment. I think the problem is they don't want that scanning to be done so that then Greece can say, okay, we want our stuff back now. I think that's the big problem here. So IDA managed to scan most of the Metope, but its members needed a ladder to reach the top. They're very high. If you've seen a picture, go online if you want to take a look. The Parthenon Marbles have been in the British Museum's collection since 1816, way back then. However, the Greek government today is claiming, hey, they were taken illegally during the Ottoman rule. So at that point, the Ottomans ruled Greece, and they had no ability to say, no, those are ours. So the Greeks had no power in their own country. That happens quite often during war. Now, many people believe the collection should be returned. I'm one of them. But the British Museum maintains that it offers the best protection of the artifacts to the Parthenon marbles at this point. Like I said, they have a brand new Greek museum in Athens with some of these beautiful artifacts that's close to the Acropolis. If you go online, you can take a look at that.
Indeed, and this is kind of similar to the situation here in Taiwan regarding the artifacts in the Palace Museum, which were taken from China after the Civil War there, brought over to Taiwan. Some people say that, hey, you're not supposed to take that stuff, but this is kind of controversial, and I'll let that be a topic for you to discuss amongst yourselves.
Yeah.
I don't want to get in trouble here for saying something controversial, but it does kind of sound similar to me in a way. So, yeah, I'm with you, Stephanie. I think they probably should give the stuff back, but yeah, they should scan that stuff first and make copies, and as I said earlier, most folks won't know the difference.
No, it's true.
Okay, that brings us to the end of our explanation for today. It's time now to listen to our Chinese teacher.
好，请同学看到同样呢是第二段的第4个句子，我们在前一部分已经看到 dispute 它的词语搭配，那争执产生了之后当然是需要寻求解决之道。这个解决要搭配的动词呢，就是 resolve a dispute。resolve a dispute。再请同学呢看到第二段第5个句子，请同学看到 replicas， 就是在逗点之前的这个 replicas， 在这里相当重要，它所指的呢就是复制品，像这些艺术作品，它们的复制品。不见得呢是山寨哦，有时候呢，他们其实是获得官方的授权的这些复制品，我们可以把它称为 replicas。那相较于复制品，我们就有原本的这个真正的作品本身呢，就是 originals， 原作就是 originals。好，那再来，请同学呢看到第3段的第1个句子 ，the friction。这个 friction 呢，当然就是跟前面的 dispute 其实指的呢是同样的一件事。这个 IDA 这个组织跟大英博物馆之间的争执。好，它从什么时候开始的呢 ？It began after IDA's application。所以 IDA 它其实提出了申请，他们要求 requesting the right to conduct 3D scanning。好，那这个申请呢受到了驳回 ，the application was rejected。同样的也是词语搭配，请同学要特别注意，提出了一项申请被驳回，那我们就说 the application was rejected。好，再来呢，请同学看到第2个句子，那既然提出申请被博物馆驳回，这个组织做了什么 ？IDA had defied the denial。这边的 denial 呢，其实是 deny 的名词，同样所指的也是一样，就是他们提出申请却被驳回这件事情。IDA 有没有乖乖的遵守呢？并没有，所以我们所用的动词就是 defy， 过去式是去 y 加 ied， 所以他们并没有遵守，就是大英博物馆的决定。再来，我们请看到第3段的第4个句子，最后一个句子。这里的 IDA managed to scan 一直到后面这里，请同学特别注意的是 managed to。managed to 呢，我们常常会说是设法，但其实就是顺利做到后面这件事情，所以他们还是顺利的做了 3D 扫描。好的，以上就是我们针对这篇新闻稿所做的中文讲解，谢谢大家。
That's it, guys. We hope you enjoyed learning a little bit more about what the British Museum is facing. And it might make you curious just to get online and look into the Acropolis, the Parthenon, and some of these marbles that are truly, truly amazing. So we hope that that's kind of stirred your interest. Thanks for joining us. We hope you'll come back soon for English Digest. I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Tom. Goodbye.
See ya.